on this week's episode, I want to talk about the biggest struggle thus far. Last episode we talked about some struggles and misconceptions that my husband and I deal with as a couple, and just the difference of culture and that kind of thing. But this is more of a personal struggle that I want to talk about. So everybody who has been following me for years knows that I am not only a mental health advocate, but I'm also a mental health coach, and I've also struggled with my own mental health issues, PTSD, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. And the biggest challenge this far for me personally, and I will say probably for my husband as well, because he has never dealt with something like this before as a caretaker, so to speak, has been this life transition that I made. So last week on the last episode, I talked about one of the challenges was being able to get my prescription medications that I've taken for years, one of them being an antidepressant. So for about 6 years, I've been on Cymbalta, about 60 milligrams, and it has worked perfect for me. But then I come here and realize that it is illegal for my family in the United States to send my medication through the mail internationally. And so we had to do a lot of research and a lot of talking to the pharmacists and medical people here to find out what antidepressants were available, and then talk to my doctor to see what was equivalent to what I've been taking and that what would be the easiest transition. So anytime you're doing any kind of med change for somebody who has mental illness, especially depression, and with antidepressants, it is hell in all capital letters. You go through withdrawals of the antidepressant that you're weaning off of, and then you go through a transition period where you're virtually unmedicated because the new antidepressant has not yet fully entered your system and kind of evened out you chemically in your brain. So what we did, long story short, we ended up finding out through talking to doctors on both sides that one of the medications that was available here, and that would be probably the best replacement for the Cymbalta, was going to be Prozac. The good thing about Prozac is it's been around for a very long time. It has a long half-life, which means it stays in your system a little bit longer. So if for some reason something unforeseen happened and I wasn't able to get my medication refilled right away, I wouldn't go through the nasty withdrawal symptoms that I did on the last medication. So there was a lot of positives. The hardest part was figuring out what dosage. So they obviously start me off on the lowest dosage available here, which was 20 milligrams. So I started doing that for a couple weeks, and then I noticed I would literally cry over anything and everything. Like, I'm happy here, and I would literally be telling my husband and anybody that saw me crying, like, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm just sad. And I didn't really have a reason to be sad. But when I would check in with myself, which is one of the things I know to do from being a mental health coach myself, and helping my clients, is I would check in with myself and like, okay, so what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? What is it that is triggering these emotions? And the one thing I was able to identify was it felt as if I was mourning like a death. And what it kind of came to fruition, what it was I literally was mourning my life before I moved to Tanzania. And so I had to start getting really, really serious with myself, and I started reaching out to not just friends that are in the mental health world, but also my therapist and my regular doctor, and like, okay guys, like, I need help. I need my tribe to kind of come together because I'm not okay. And it just as always, I'm so blessed. My tribe of people, they showed up and they showed out right when I needed them to. Now on this side, what was, I think, difficult for my husband is here in Tanzania, mental health is basically taboo. When somebody has mental illness, it's either looked at as they've been cursed, like a witch doctor has put a curse on them. They're usually hidden away, they're called crazy, sometimes they're abused, sometimes they're killed. It's taboo that it's a sickness. So the way that I initially started to explain this to my husband, because he's never seen me like this before, is, you know, just like somebody who's diabetic and has to take medication in order to stay alive, you can't see diabetes. Well, with my illness, which is a mental illness, you can't see it. I look physically okay, and actually, the physical disability is what you see. But my husband knows very, very well that physically, I'm perfectly fine and capable. But when you're looking at me and you're seeing me crying, and you're like, what's the problem? You know, I was able to explain to him that the depression and PTSD and these things that I deal with, they're invisible. And so on the outside, I look normal, I look like myself, but on the inside, everything is going awry. And without the proper medications, I'm not able to live my best life. And so in switching medications, there was gonna be an adjustment period. I think the final straw, where we started to realize, so we upped my dosage to 40 milligrams within a couple weeks because the 20 definitely wasn't working. I felt a little bit of relief, but I still was very, very sad, and small things became really big things for me. You know, missing my family, thinking about my children. It would automatically, even talking about it now, I kind of get still choked up a little bit, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But I noticed, okay, things still aren't good. And then we came to a situation last week where my husband said, you know what, I think the best thing is let's take a trip to Mashiri village. That's the village where he grew up on the side of Mount Kilimanjaro. Let's change environments. And he had been doing that a lot. Like when he would see me get sad inside the house, he'll hold me, love on me, tell me how much he loves me. And then he'd pick me up and take me outside. So I had like different change of scenery, which was helping. But this time was a lot worse. And what triggered it was, so he said, let's go to Mashiri village. Let's just go for a couple nights. We'll go stay with my family, you know, with my parents, and spend time with the family and on the mountain. And maybe that'll help, just kind of getting you out of the house, out of our village. So like, that's a great idea. Well, later on that night, my husband's an overachiever. He likes to plan everything and pack and have everything already ready before it happens, which anybody that knows me knows that I am not that. I'm like last minute. So the night before, my husband gets the suitcases out, and we were taking two suitcases, one that we filled with clothes that we were giving to some of the people in the family in the village that we don't need, that they need more than us. We had to bring like our own bedding and stuff, so our big blanket because it gets cold on the mountain. So he gets down both of my suitcases that I brought from the United States. One of them is my big one, and then one of them is a smaller one. The smaller one, we're putting both of our clothes in, his on one side, mine on the other. When he gets the big one out, now mind you, I haven't opened the suitcase. I knew that there was some stuff in it that I left in there that I didn't need. But I couldn't remember exactly what it was. And I could feel myself, like anxiety, like nervousness of like, oh God, what's gonna be in this suitcase? Because I hope it's nothing that's gonna trigger me and like make me totally lose my shit and start crying. And so he opened the suitcase, and there was only a few things in there. There was the two things that triggered me. One was my friend Amanda's hat. Amanda, for anybody that knows me, knows Amanda is like my soul sister. She's a part of More Heart Than Scars in the United States. She's also a mental health care worker. She's like literally my soul sister. Well, she had given me her Dolly Locks beanie hat for when I did World's Toughest Mudder last year, because she wasn't able to be there with me. So she was like, wear my hat, I'm gonna be there with you, I'm gonna watch it every second of the way. And well, I forgot to give her hat back before I left the United States. So she's like, no problem, you keep it until I come to Tanzania. So I was like, deal. Well, because it's a beanie, and as you can see, it's hot here all the time, I didn't need it, so I left it in the suitcase. The other thing that triggered me was I had a bunch of stuff that hung from my rear view mirror in my car. Well, for those that don't know, one of the things, I guess like the sacrifices that I made when I decided to move here permanently and be with my husband, I sold my car. My car was more than just my freedom. It was something that I worked many, many years to be able to get. It was given to me by the company that built it, that I worked for 6, almost 7 years for as a marketing assistant. And it was very special to me. It was something I had prayed for years and years. I had this car for a long time. Actually, the first time I came, I left the car with my daughter, Kalia. She had her license, but she didn't have a car of her own. So I left it for her to drive while I was here for the 3 months. And but when I went back, once we decided this is going to be a permanent move for me, and I'm like, okay, I have to get rid of this car. One, the value of it's depreciating very, very quickly because they quit making them in 2016. So if I'm going to sell it and make any money off of it, I've got to do it now. Number two, I have to get my daughter, help her some way, get a car that's safe and reliable and that's hers. So the ultimate decision was to sell my car. I actually sold it to one of my best friends who lives in Florida, and is using it as for her husband's mobile mechanic business, which is pretty cool. So it's still running, it's still on the road, but it was a big thing for me to let go of. So I see these things in the suitcase, the things that I used to hang from my rearview mirror that I saved. They were special to me, they were sentimental. And all of a sudden, my poor husband, he's like just getting stuff out of the suitcase and going to pack it. And I just lose it. And I am hysterically crying. And in my mind, I'm in like an acute crisis in the moment. And I started to panic because then my thoughts went to, oh my gosh, this depression, something's gotta give. I need help. I can't keep living this way. I can't keep feeling this sad. I'm gonna lose my husband, I'm gonna lose my marriage, this disease is gonna ruin my life. So I started catastrophizing what was happening because I no longer was in control. My husband, he did what he always does. He's holding me, he's kissing me, he's telling me he loves me. You know, there's no way I'm ever leaving you. We're gonna get through this together. But nothing was happening because by this point, I had already subconsciously went into the darkest places that I could go in my brain. I had lost control over what I was thinking. And it was a very defeating feeling. The depression was winning. So I was shaking, I was having a hard time catching my breath, I was almost in like full panic attack. And the only thing that I could do is feel around, and my husband said, what are you looking for? And I said, my phone, I need my phone. So he found my phone, handed it to me, and the first thing I did was called my friend Amanda, who also is, like I said, a mental health care worker. She has her, I believe, her master's degree and works in a clinical setting with people with all kinds of different mental illnesses. And so she's the first person I can think of to call because I know that no matter where she is, she's gonna answer the phone and she's gonna help de-escalate me. She's gonna help me get back and regulate where I'm at and remember that I'm safe, everything's okay. So I call, and just as I expected, she's at work in the hospital. She answers the phone. She sees my face because I'm FaceTiming her, and she's like, oh God, what's wrong? What's wrong? Talk to me. Well, at first I couldn't even really talk to her. But then I started saying everything that was going through my head. I need help. I can't live like this anymore. I can't put my husband through this. Poor guy. He doesn't really know what to do. Like, he's doing everything he possibly can to learn, which is one of the biggest blessings, and one of the reasons that I know that the man that I chose to marry is the man that God made for me, is because he's so willing to be open-minded and learn, not just ways to help me, but ways to prevent me from going to that place. Even if it's, as simple as reminding me, baby, did you take your medicine? Those little things matter so, so much. They're simple, but they're so important, and that support, I'm very, very blessed. So, saying all this to Amanda, my husband's sitting with me. He talks to her. He says to her, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And she's just amazing. And she says to him, you have one of the hardest jobs, and that is being the caretaker. And I love you so much for trying to learn, and for loving my friend, and for being there for her. She said the same thing to him that I did, kind of about diabetes. What she has is invisible. And so it's got to be so hard for you to just be learning about all of these things, on top of feeling the weight of the responsibility of basically like keeping her alive. Because when I get like this, guys, I go through all of the suicidal ideation. Like, it would just feel so much better if I didn't wake up. I would do anything to not feel this way. So I want to talk about that a little bit too. When I go through my suicidal ideation, I don't necessarily want to die. And I think that that's a really, really important point to make. And I say that out loud. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to die. But right now, I would do anything for this to go away, to just wake up and for this to be gone, or not wake up and not have to feel like this again. So that's how my suicidal ideation kind of works. And I was definitely in those moments. Amanda gets me calm. And one of the things she said to me that I had started to identify on my own, but I really, really hadn't given myself a lot of grace and a lot of, holding space for myself to really process these emotions. She says, Erika, you just made one of the biggest life changes that anybody could ever make. Not only did you just get married for the first time, but you moved to the other side of the world. You left everything that is familiar to you. You left your family, you left your friends, all the things you love. You gave up certain freedoms. These are the sacrifices that you made. So you are in mourning. It's okay. It's okay to be mourning the life that you lived. But what we can't do is unpack and stay there, because we have to start embracing and changing the mindset around the mourning to something healthier. Like, I'm so thankful I got to have all those experiences before I came here. And I carry all of those things with me. My family is healthy. They still love me. We have technology. We have, FaceTime and Facebook Messenger, where I'm able to physically see my family and have one-on-one phone conversations with them. And as she started saying these things, I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. Like, I've got to change my thinking. And then all of the knowledge and tools and skills that I have from being a mental health coach, and also already going through therapy and still in therapy myself, all my tools started coming back to my mind. And I'm like, okay. So I got back in a calm place. We were able to end up finish packing. We left the next morning for Mashiri Village. We actually spent 2 nights there. And, at one point in time while we were there, Mashiri Village so we live in a very, very poor village, but as you guys know, we are not poor. And our actual home is like a castle compared to our neighbors and what's around us. And I'll show some footage throughout this, maybe at the end of this video, of what our village actually looks like on the outside. But anyway, Mashiri Village is just as poor, if not even poorer. And my husband's family, they're a very poor family. Everything they have because my husband worked very hard, him and his younger brother Jackson, to provide for their mom and dad. And so now they have a nice house, but they still have an outdoor kitchen. They still cook everything by a fire. They still have outdoor bathrooms. You know, the inside of the house is just really a sitting room and bedrooms, and that's it. And even the room that my husband and I stay in when we're there is a room outside. So it's basically 4 walls and a roof with a bed in it. And so it kind of took me to a place where physically it was really, really hard for me because of my disability. Like in the middle of the night, and when it's raining, pouring down rain on Mount Kilimanjaro, and I have to pee, my husband has to wake up and help me get to the bathroom, and we're soaking wet. Like, I mean, it was physically hard for me. But I was so thankful to be there, because I realized while I was there how fortunate and blessed we are to be living the life that we're living, to be able to financially help his family, to be able to make sure that they're eating more than 1 meal a day. You know, it was phenomenal, the love that his family shows me, from his brothers, his sister-in-laws, my sister-in-laws, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. Although we don't speak the same language, I know how much they love me, and I know how much they appreciate me being in their lives. And I remember at one point I was looking in my mother-in-law's eyes, and I was telling her, please don't ever forget how much I love you. And her eyes kind of got filled up with tears, and she said, thank you, my daughter. And in that moment, and looking in her eyes, was like an epiphany, like, okay, all right, God, I see what you're doing. I am right where I'm supposed to be, and I have everything in the world to be thankful for. Number one, I need to be thankful that I have the amazing husband that I have, and the relationship, the bond, the love that we share, the way that we take care of each other. But I'm also so blessed to be able to have the opportunity as an American citizen to be in an abundantly vibrant, beautiful country like Tanzania, with so much poverty and so much hurting and pain around me, and be able to make a small difference, even if it's a couple of people's lives, even if it's my in-laws' lives, even if it's 1 or 2 of our neighbors, or, you know, teaching some of the children here in the village, as I showed in my previous video. Everything to be thankful for. So that's the end of me sharing the major struggle, but I just thought it was really, really important to share this, because I know that there could be somebody watching this, somebody following us, that, you know, all you see is the happy stuff. And I want to be transparent with our channel, and I want to share the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything, and again, with grace and humor. And that's how my husband and I live our lives. And I want to be as authentic as I can to who we are and what we are building together. And I knew that it was very important for me to make this video, as hard as it's been. I know you've seen me more than once almost break down crying, because I'm still going through the process. It's moment by moment, day by day. But I know that by making this video and being transparent, that this could help somebody else who may be going through a med change themselves, and maybe are having a really, really difficult time. Maybe this could help somebody who's going through an extreme life change. Maybe it's not moving to Africa, but, you know, maybe it's losing their home and having to start all over. Whatever it is, I want you to know that you have to trust the process, and you have to keep swimming, because you never know what God has in store, the universe has in store for tomorrow. So hold on to your tribe and keep them close. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for our next couple episodes that will be coming here really soon. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you have any ideas or any questions of things that you would like for us to talk about in an episode, please tell us in the comment section. Thanks for watching.